What if the need to win is the very thing that keeps you trapped? We live in a world that rewards argument. From online comment sections to dinner table debates, we've been conditioned to believe that victory belongs to the loudest voice, the sharpest retort, the last word. But behind every need to win lurks the silent scream of the ego. Why do we argue? Is it really about truth or about validation? Sometimes what we call a conversation is really just two masks talking. Not two souls seeking to understand, but two identities fighting not to disappear. The real question isn't whether you're right. The real question is, why do you need to prove it? Truth doesn't need defense, only the ego does. So what if the highest power isn't in winning the argument, but in walking away from it? At the root of most arguments isn't logic. It's fear. A fear of being unseen, unheard, or worse, wrong. The ego, that fragile sense of self we've constructed through years of conditioning, sees disagreement as death. It cannot afford to be wrong. To lose face is to lose form, and so we argue not to find understanding, but to survive. Ancient teachings have long warned us of this trap. In Vedanta, the ego is a hamkara, the I-maker, a phantom that clings to opinions as proof of its existence. In Zen, the greatest obstacle to enlightenment is not ignorance, but certainty. Even Freud described the ego as a mediator, in constant tension, caught between instinct and ideal, reality and illusion. And so we lash out, not because we're strong, but because we're fragile. Look at the great sages. Socrates, when accused, asked questions instead of defending. Buddha, when insulted, remained silent. Lao Tzu, in his great wisdom, said, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." They didn't argue because they didn't need to. They had nothing to protect, no identity to guard, no mask to maintain. Can you say the same? Every argument is an energetic transaction, and the cost? Far greater than we realize. Have you ever walked away from a heated debate and felt drained, not just mentally but soulfully? That's not coincidence, it's consequence. Conflict pulls us into a lower vibrational field, one governed by polarity, resistance, and attachment. In this field, we're not thinking, we're surviving. Spiritual teachings speak of this. The Hermetic principle of vibration reminds us that everything is energy. When we argue, we match the frequency. Drove chaos, not clarity. In the Vedas, Manas, the mind, was described as a battlefield, and every battle, no matter how small, leaves scars. Even science agrees. Studies show that arguments spike cortisol levels, impair decision-making, and fracture emotional intelligence. The more we argue, the more we weaken the very faculties that would allow us to resolve conflict. So we become addicted to noise, unable to hear the whisper of wisdom within. Every time you argue, you trade peace for pride, clarity for control, presence for performance, and in that transaction something essential is lost in your stillness. There is a silence that speaks louder than any word. It is the silence of the awakened, the silence of one who has nothing left to prove. Ramana Maharshi once sat for years without speaking, and yet seekers traveled across the world just to sit in his presence. Why? Because truth doesn't shout, it radiates. Jesus, when brought before Pilate, answered few questions. His silence wasn't fear. It was sovereignty. Taoism teaches, yield and overcome, be still and know. Silence is not passivity, it's precision. A surgical absence of noise that disarms the ego and invites the soul. There's a Zen story. A monk is insulted by a passerby. Instead of responding, he bows. "Why did you not reply?" a disciple asks. The monk smiles. "I do not accept gifts I did not ask for." Silence is not the absence of response. It is the refusal to participate in illusions. To walk away without a word is not weakness, it is mastery. It says, "I am no longer available for this vibration." Can you imagine the power of that? The restraint, the poise, that is not silence, that is thunder withheld. Here's the truth. Truth doesn't need you. It doesn't need defense, applause, or agreement. It simply is. The moment we feel the key need to argue for truth, we have already lost sight of it. Because the truth that can be argued is not the eternal truth. It is ego's truth, conditioned, reactive, impermanent. In Indian philosophy, Satya's truth is not opinion, but essence. It is the unchanging beneath the changing, the still point in a spinning world. And essence needs no validation. Picture the sun. It does not argue with the darkness, it simply shines. The light does not beg for approval, it illuminates regardless. So ask yourself, if you were truly grounded in truth, would you feel the urge to argue? Or would your very presence become the argument? Real truth is lived, not spoken. It is embodied, not broadcast. It needs no applause, and because it is its own evidence, and the deeper you walk into that truth, the less you feel the need to drag others with you. Here's the twist. Walking away is often the greater confrontation. Why? Because it denies the ego what it craves most: attention, reaction, validation. Most people are not looking for dialogue. They are looking for reflection, a mirror for their identity. When you refuse to engage, you force them to meet themselves. And that is far more terrifying than any counterpoint. Have you ever noticed how silence unsettles, how calm unnerves the chaotic? That's because your refusal to fight is a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see their own face. In Gnostics teachings, the true battle is not external, it is within. Every time you choose silence over noise, you win a war no one else can see. You become untouchable. When you walk away, you are not retreating. You are rising. You're stepping out of the mud and into the sky. Let them shout. Let them insist. Let them argue with shadows. You are already gone. In the end, the argument was never about them. It was always about you, your need to be right. Your fear of being wrong, your craving to be seen, heard, validated. All masks, all illusions. But you're ready now, ready to walk differently, to move from reaction to revelation, from noise to knowing, from ego to essence. Next time, the argument rises. Pause. Listen not to the words but to your body. Feel the pull, sense the trap, and then don't step into it. You don't need to win. You only need to remember who you are, without the need to win. Walk away. Still, silent, sovereign. Because in that moment, you are no longer arguing, you are free. What if I told you that walking away is sometimes the greatest form of power? Not slamming the door, not proving them wrong, not getting the last word, just walking away. Quietly, calmly, completely. Our world trains us to win, to argue, to prove our worth through conflict. But behind this constant need to be right is fear. The fear of being seen as weak, the fear of not being heard, the fear of being invisible. So we fight. We fight to be seen. We fight to be right. But what if every fight is just another chain? The great spiritual masters knew something we've forgotten, that the need to win is a trap, because the more you fight, the more you're controlled by what you're fighting. What if victory is not rising to the bait? What if strength is found in silence? What if real freedom is walking away without needing to explain why? We begin with this paradox. You don't need to win, because sometimes the one who walks away with everything. The ego doesn't want peace, it wants to be right. It feeds on argument, it survives on conflict. It's not interested in truth. It's addicted to being seen as the one who knows. Have you ever felt that burn in your chest? That tightening in your throat? That urge to interrupt, to correct, to dominate? That's not your higher self, that's your ego. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unseen part of us that lashes out when it feels threatened. It fears being wrong because it fears annihilation. The ego thinks, if I'm wrong, I'm nothing. If they win, I disappear. But you're not the ego, you're the awareness behind it. Ancient mystics knew this. The Zen masters, the Taoist sages, the Sufi poets. They saw silence as strength, not weakness. When someone attacked them with words, they didn't respond with louder words. They responded with presence. Stillness, clarity. Because truth doesn't panic. It doesn't scream. It doesn't need to prove itself. The next time you feel the urge to argue, ask yourself, who wants to win? Is it your soul or your ego? You don't fight the storm by shouting at the wind, you survive it by standing still or stepping away. Real strength isn't always about standing your ground. Sometimes it's knowing when the ground itself is unstable. Walking away isn't giving up, it's leveling up. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Imagine that. You don't have to respond, you don't have to engage, you don't even have to care. True mastery is not reacting. It's choosing your battles with such precision that most